Hello students, today we will discuss about Charles Dickens as a social reformer. चार्ल्स डिकेंस ने द डेविड कॉपरफील्ड लिखा है। ओके, आज हम उनके सोशल रिफॉर्मर के बारे में बात करेंगे। Charles Dickens was a social reformer who used diction as platform for his special appeals. His chief merit as social reformer lies in the fact that he could moralize with a smile on his lips and mix his sermonic powders in such an excellent jam that his contemporaries did not realize for a while that he was doctoring them for their good. Dickens taught them to laugh at a time of stress and strain when they badly needed it. फर्स्ट है ए स्टोरी टेलर। Dickens was not only a great storyteller but also a social reformer who used diction as platform for his social appeals. His chief merit as social reformers lies in the fact that he could moralize with a jam that his contemporaries did not realize for a while that he was doctoring them for their good. Dickens taught them to laugh at a time of stress and strain when they badly needed it, and having laughed with them, they took heed of his passionate monitions. Next, specific legislation through Parliament. Dickens did not wish to reform society through specific legislation through Parliament, nor did he want to overthrow the existing order of society by extra parliamentary means. His aim was to shock his readers in the conscience by presenting before them a picture of social evils and making them feel the pulse of society. He had little faith in the virtue of legislations, as during his career as a parliamentary reporter, he had come to the conclusion that Parliament was only a solely options farce. His chief aim was only to show his readers in the vividest possible way man's inhumanity to man. Next is crusade against the evils. In his novels, therefore, he carried on a crusade against the evil in the English society of his times and satirized them mercilessly. In Oliver's Twist, Dickens the reformer appeared for the first time and depicted the misadventures of a child born in workhouse and thrown among thieves and murderers. Whether he has been able to present in this novel an accurate picture of the working of the poor law or not, it does not matter. But he has been successful enough in exposing man's inhumanity to man. In Nicholas Nickleby, he exposes through the Dotheboys Hall Wakefield Squares what he called in his preface the monstrous neglect of education in England and the disregard of it by the state as means of forming good or bad citizens. Treatment of such subjects in such a tone was something new in literature, and the success of book based Slee on the picture of low life in Oliver Twist and the Storm raised by the exposure of private school in Nicholas Nickleby. These were subjects, and this was an attitude it could be appreciated by the new reading class, the rising whose power had been released by the Industrial Revolution and formally acknowledged in the Reform Act of 1832. The British imperialism evolved through ruthless exploitations while trying at the same time to solve uneasy consciences with such minor measures of reform at home as Factory Act that limited working hours to 10 a day. Dickens was the conscience of this rising. In his novels, he attacked the injustice of the poor law, delay in the administrations of justice, the cruelties of schoolmasters, imprisonment for debts, and so on. But he was not a pioneer in these attacks. His relations to his age in this respect. His beliefs, his moral and political philosophies have been brilliantly charted by House in his book The Dickens World. Of Dickens, the reformer, House says, he seemed topical to thousands. He was not too optical for them to see the point, not too advanced to have the public conscience on his side. Dashed now from his time to he many times seemed more original and adventurous than he was. For them he was only giving wider publicity in inimitable for to a number of social facts and social abuses which had already been recognized if not explored before him. He shared with an attitude to what they both knew and got exactly the tone which clarified and reinforced the public sense of right and wrong and flattered its moral feelings. In a very special sense, then owing to the peculiar nature of his connections with his public, Dickens, more than any of his contemporaries, was the expression of the conscience of his age. It was such that he was accepted and loved, the master of our sunniest smiles and our most unselfish tears, whom it was impossible to read without the most radiant violent sympathy. His readers what they themselves thought and felt to the great social problems which confronted them, or rather reading him they discovered what they thought and felt. Next grew older, his mood became darker. Dickens grew older, his mood became darker. So in his later novels, these foreshadowed by Dombey and Son, the criticism of his age becomes increasingly radical in Bleak House, Hard Times, Little Dorrit, Great Expectations, and Our Mutual Friend. The onslaught on his age is unlimiting. In Great Expectations, he exposed the inhuman conditions of the prisons, houses, and the cruel treatment meted out to the prisoners. The morality of his judgment was rooted in the childhood injustice he himself had suffered from. His sympathy for the oppressed was wholly emotional and took the form of a drama. in which he was central figure. In David Copperfield, Dickens provides a scathing criticism of the system of teaching in schools run by masters like Crackle and his companions, caning which formed an integral part of school discipline. It condemned. Reforms are suggested by Dickens in the education of children. The academy run by Dr. Smart provides a model for all educational institutions. By contrast with Scott, he may be called a realist, for there are mists of times on space to throw a glamour over his subjects. He takes what lies nearest to hand. But in No West, he depicts the lower and middle class life in the 19th century London, just as Scott depicted the life of border Scotland. But the difference between the two novelists is that the 19th century London does not inspire Dickens to give a realistic portrait of it. It simply stimulates him to create, as a model may stimulate an artist to paint the picture, which, though beautiful, may not be accurate photographic representation of the model. Dickens' stories may have the most realistic settings and the most realistic figures of contemporary London, but the world that he created out of them is not all the world we actually live in.